Hi, I'm Lindsey Bugbee, and I recently released the Calligraphy Book, which is available for pre-order now or order in December, after December 3rd. Today, I want to walk you through how the book came to be, first of all, but also how everything came together content-wise to culminate in this book. I've been a blogger since 2012, and as a blogger, you constantly receive emails, maybe 2 or 3 a year, from publishers saying, hey, will you work with me on this book or that book? And usually the publishing companies are small publishing houses, and I just think, budget's too small, project's too big, I can't do it. But one day in 2021, I received an email from a person at DK, which was actually a publisher I had heard of because they're part of Penguin Random House. And they were saying in their email, hey, do you want to do a book about calligraphy? And just considering how big DK and Penguin are, I thought, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity. The only wrench in the whole thing was, at the time, I had an 8-month-old, and then a 3-year-old. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to balance my business with writing a book with my family? I just don't think I can do it. So I called my friend Jess at Greenleaf and Blueberry. We were college roommates. We've been friends forever. And I told her about this project. She's in the same stage of life as I am. And she said, Lindsey, you've been wanting to do this forever. And with a project like this, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. You can do it if you just take it one step at a time. And I thought, okay. And then she said, you know what? I can give you Samantha Dion Baker's information. She was the one that wrote Draw Your Day. It's a fabulous book. If you haven't picked it up, you absolutely should. And you can talk to Sam and see what she has to say about writing a book. So I said, oh my goodness, yes, I would love to connect with her. So I call Samantha, and Samantha had great advice. She said, look, writing a book is really tough. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And there are times where you'll be really discouraged, but it's worth it and you should do it. So I went back to DK and I said, yeah, let's make this happen. I can do it. As far as the nuts and bolts went, DK had encouraged me to get a literary agent, which I did not have. And Samantha had backed up that idea that, these are really handy to have if you're writing a book. So I shopped around and I found Ann Tenenbaum in New York City. She helped me to navigate the contract negotiations, which really was the hardest part. So that's coming up with, what are they going to pay you for the advance? What are your royalties? And then also timeline. And that was really the only sticking point with us, because I like to have a lot of time to do things. You can even see in my calligraphy videos, I write very slowly. And DK was more like, hey, can you get this done in 8 months? So we were able to come to a compromise with the help of my literary agent. So that helped out a lot. The literary agent also has this role of intervention. So if things start to get a little off track with your editor, they're pushing you to do things that you don't want to do, the literary agent can step in. Now, in this case, that never had to happen. I had a fantastic situation with my editor. There was another editor I was working with too, and the creative director. We had really good energy together, and we were able to really listen to each other and communicate in order to turn this book into what it is today. One big thing that DK and I had to iron out was exactly how we were going to work together. DK does have a division in the US where, if you can't tell from the accent, that's where I'm from. But I was working with DK in the UK. So how do you make that work? We had a lot of conversations about that. They wanted to make sure that my photography was good enough that I could take some pictures for the book. At one point, they suggested, well, why don't you come over to the UK? We'll fly you over a couple of times and we can, get the photographs of your hands and whatever. And I'm going, ooh, that's not gonna work. My baby's too little and I'm not comfortable with that. So in the end, we came to a compromise where I would do a portion of the photography. After completing some of the projects for the book or sending over various materials, a photographer in the UK would do the other part of the photography, and that's how the photography was squared away. And of course, the illustrations were easy because those were just, something I could scan and send over. So that was fine. But yeah, this entire book is the result of someone in the US, in Colorado, corresponding with a team in London, working together to put all of this information into a volume. As far as how I actually wrote the book, like typed it out, that was a separate process where I just had this 100-page long document, wrote down anything that came to my mind, and then my two editors trimmed it down severely so it made sense and was able to be coherently included in the calligraphy book. The art designer for this book was Jordan Lambley, so she and I worked closely together to make sure that everything looked good. And if I wasn't comfortable with something, she and Amy, my editor, and I would hash it out to figure out how to make it more effective. To be totally honest, the year that I spent working on this book was probably the most intense year I have ever had in my career or otherwise, really, because as I predicted, on the one hand, I was balancing my business, I was balancing my kids and my family, and then you throw writing a book into the mix. And there were some days where I just, felt super overwhelmed. I'd throw the iPads at my kids and get done what I needed to get done. But in the scheme of things, it was completely worth it. I am so pleased with how this turned out. I just don't even have the words to describe it. I'm very, very proud of what I was able to accomplish with the team at DK. And I truly think that whoever picks up this book is going to adore it. I'd like to end this video with just some interesting tidbits. So first of all, there was one thing that didn't make it into the book that I pushed and pushed for, and that was watercolor maps. I love making maps with calligraphy and the pointed pen. And I suggested several times, we could do this project here, or we could sneak a picture of it here. And finally they said, Lindsey, they're gorgeous. Why don't we do a 100 watercolor maps by Lindsey Bugbee book in the future? And so that's how they got me to be quiet. Will it happen? Probably not, because that would take me like 10 years, but kind of a fun little exchange we had. Another fun fact, in this book, there is a keepsake birth certificate project, and it has little footprints on it. Those footprints are from my son, Remy, so I scanned those in and I used those to make the birth certificate. Okay, so this is interesting. Because of US copyright laws, we couldn't incorporate any photos that had postage stamps that were issued post 1975. So that's why all of the postage stamps you see in the book are vintage. Not a problem for me because I love vintage postage stamps anyway. On page 121, there is an example of a Browse Extra Fine 66 nib whose tines are scissored. I broke 5 Browse Extra Fine 66 nibs trying to get that scissored effect. Final fact, each chapter opener illustration took me about 25 hours to create. First, I had to make a pencil draft, then DK would approve it or have me tweak things. Then I would go over everything in ink. I watched so much TV and listened to so many podcasts and audiobooks, but in the end it was worth it because I think that these add so much to the book. I hope that you enjoyed this behind the scenes peek of the calligraphy book and that you are able to pick up a copy. These are available on the TPK website or wherever you like to buy your books. So Target, Walmart, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the book.